Welcome into Philadelphia 76ers Now. I'm Chase Senior. No matter where you are, how you're tuned in, we appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day. And on the docket for today's show, we have the latest on James Harden. Some NBA GM survey takeaways because a lot of people think the Sixers and Joel Embiid are getting disrespected. We're going to comb through all of that. First, though, I want to begin with the latest buzz around James Harden. In particular, Patrick Beverley, current Sixer, had former Sixers minority owner Michael Rubin on his podcast. If that name sounds familiar, Rubin, as I said, former minority owner, now the CEO of Fanatics. And when I listened to that podcast, I did have a couple of takeaways. And I know that I've never been the biggest James Harden guy, and I'll expand on that coming up here just around the corner. But I do want to give James Harden credit for a couple of things, because Patrick Beverley said that in practice, James Harden has been cooking. He's brought out the cooking utensils, and he has looked great on the offensive end of the floor. So you couple that with the fact that every teammate so far who's been asked about Harden has said he's been in shape, the effort level has been there, he looks to be engaged and interested. This is different than the Ben Simmons situation a couple of years ago in which Glenn Rivers had to send him home. Bad body language, he was sulking, he was barely trying. My man had a cell phone in his shorts on the practice floor. That is an immature way to handle some adversity. Whereas for James Harden, he's handling this like a professional. And Beverley has said that the media loves to rip Harden, but at all of his stops, his teammates really do respect him for how he approaches the game of basketball. And that kind of segues into what Michael Rubin had said about James Harden, because he said that if there's one player in the NBA who wants to win a championship, it is Harden. And that's the one thing that he desperately wants, is to win an NBA title. But of note here, I also thought that this is pretty interesting, that Rubin said if he was the majority owner, this situation would have never happened. He admitted that in surveying this, and keep in mind he's probably hearing this all from James Harden's side, as well as his camp feeding him the information, that it was just handled poorly. And I could kind of see why Daryl Morey could have handled this poorly. I think Harden has handled this poorly too, because here's my issue with Harden. He's a great player. He's generational. He's done some special things in his NBA career. Literally, the only thing that's missing from his mantle and on his resume from making him an all-time great, considering what he's accomplished, what he's done, is an NBA championship. But if James Harden wanted to win a title, he wouldn't be demanding a trade. Get over your feelings. Daryl Morey has had your back throughout your entire career. He made you the highest paid player in the NBA history at one point. He traded for you twice. And yeah, maybe he didn't handle this situation to your liking. But if you truly want to win an NBA championship, great opportunity is presented to you right now in front of you, and you're asking out. That's my issue with the mindset of Harden, because when he gets in his feelings, yeah, I don't think that he always handles adversity all that well, and that's why this guy, in big moments in the playoffs, sometimes does have some performances that are very lackluster when the lights are shining the brightest. Now, before we continue to move on today's show, Harden drama aside, basketball season is almost here. I'm really excited. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Sixers. If you're pumped up for this season to get underway, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. Some preseason news I want to get to before we pivot to the NBA GM survey. A lot of interesting stuff within that. Joel Embiid, James Harden have not played in the preseason yet. Nick Nurse was asked if this had to do with injury. Nurse said no, just veteran maintenance. No injuries for those players, but they've been in the league for a long time. And this slow play is really all about getting them ready for the October 26th opener against the Milwaukee Bucks, a Bucks team that now features Damian Lillard as well as Giannis. Some thoughts from that preseason game last night. Kelly Oubre was really good. We talked about him on the show a little bit earlier this week. Oubre is a player, good athlete at that wing. He can score. 6 or 7 had a lot of those types of prototypes over the last couple of years, and I think that it could benefit the Sixers offense. Now let's go to the NBA GM survey. Takeaways really from what NBA general managers think will happen this year, and a lot of their votes point to the players that they think are elite, the players they think are special, the teams they think have a chance to win an NBA championship, and the teams that they think are phony. And this is a survey for all 30 general managers in the NBA. Keep in mind, general managers can't vote for their own teams and their players here. So let's begin with who will win the NBA Finals. Looks to be a two-horse race. In the eyes of GMs, Boston Celtics 33%, Denver Nuggets 33%. After that, the Milwaukee Bucks at 23%. I think people are sleeping on the Phoenix Suns. That roster is 2-3 deep at almost every position. Even their bench players and their bench unit is very solid. And then the Los Angeles Clippers at 3%. The Sixers got no votes to win the Eastern Conference. No votes to win the Eastern Conference. So a lot of Philly fans, including yours truly, like that underdog mentality. That's the case this year. 30% of general managers think the Sixers will finish third in the East. That's yet another second-round exit. Sixers haven't made it past the second round since 2001. Who will win NBA MVP in the eyes of GMs? Nikola Jokic, 43%. That would be his third, and his third in 4 years. Giannis at 20%. Jason Tatum, 13%. Luka Doncic, 10%. Others getting votes, but not enough to really muster a percentage. That's Joel Embiid, the reigning NBA MVP. So maybe he's getting a little bit disrespected here. The player that causes the most adjustments for coaches to make mid-game and with their game planning purposes. Look at Joel Embiid here. I understand he's at 3% and Steph Curry is at 40%. But the fact that in the eyes of the opponent, every single time that a team has to take on the Philadelphia 76ers, they have to game plan solely for one player, speaks to the special ability that Joel Embiid has. Breakout season candidates. Is Anthony Edwards a breakout candidate? I think that he's already a borderline star in this league, 23%. Cade Cunningham at 20%, coming off that injury. Franz Wagner, very solid wing for the Orlando Magic at 13%. Paolo Banchero, my man just won, Rookie of the Year, right? 7%. And then Tyrese Maxey, 7% as well. Everybody who you've talked to, everybody who you've heard from, everybody who I have talked to, we can all come to an agreement on this. Everybody's raving about Tyrese Maxey. You've seen what he's done in the playoffs, what he did against Boston the other night. He's added tools to his toolkit offensively, and I think that as time goes on, he's already shown that he can improve every single year, and I think we're going to see another improvement from Tyrese Maxey. This is also pretty telling here. Best center in the NBA, 93% Nikola Jokic. That is aided by the fact that he had a legendary playoff run. Joel Embiid just won NBA MVP, and he was blown out on this voting process. Also, Joel Embiid, no love as the best defender in the NBA. Did people just not watch the playoffs? First and second round, chase down blocks, guarding the rim, altering shots, switches. He was doing it all. And the fact that other people don't think that he's an elite defender, I think is pretty crazy because I think he's one of the most dominant defenders in the NBA. This is also pretty cool. Finally, the Philadelphia 76ers have a coach who can make tactical adjustments. Doc Rivers never did. Brett Brown struggled with it, although I think he was somewhat underrated during his tenure, climbing the Sixers out of the process era. But I love Nick Nurse. And I think that finally the Sixers have one of the top coaches in the NBA. And he will give you a chance in a tough playoff series against a Boston Celtics. Maybe with Nurse, you don't lose Game 6 and you go to the Eastern Conference Finals. And from that point, who knows what happens against the Miami Heat. But best in-game adjustments, Nick Nurse tied for 3 at 7% with Ty Lue at second. Rick Carlisle, Nick Nurse there tied for third. Toughest team to predict. And I want to round out the show with this because basically you think about some of the votes that we've gone through, some of the subject matters that we've gone through, and what we've talked about here on the show. I have no idea what the 76ers are going to do this year. Now, a lot of that hinges on James Harden. Is he going to be with this team? Is he going to play? Is he going to be productive? That's a massive question mark considering his usage on a team. So the toughest team to predict, as voted on by NBA general managers, it is not even close. 30% to 13%, and they share the same feelings as the fan base because I have no idea what the hell's going to happen with the 76ers in 2023-2024. Is it a lack of respect? I don't think it is. Now, I teased that at the start of the show because I wanted to pose that question for you, but this is what happens when you always choke. You're unpredictable. Teams don't think that you can get over the top, that you can compete with the Celtics or a Milwaukee Bucks and close out a playoff series, come through in crunch time, and you also have one of the biggest question marks and one of the biggest drama-ensuing stories in the NBA. What is the future of James Harden? If you're still rocking with us, I really appreciate you for supporting the show. I hope that you subscribe because I think that we do something special here with our interactive, informative, and insightful content. If that's the case, give me a real one. We'll catch you next time here on the show. Go Eagles, go Phillies, go Sixers. We out. Peace.